Welcome to Nebraska Preps Postgame with Damon Benning and Jacob Padilla.
That's the big voice guy. That means I get another week with my main man, Jacob Padilla. We're solving all the world's problems behind the scenes. Jacob, one of the greatest listening ears of all time. And his Wi-Fi is working, so we're going to keep him logged in. And he is post the sun's setting. Sun is down, freezing cold. Yeah, don't worry. My Lakers will be joining you here in a second.
that was certainly an interesting game. One,
a
lot of swings.
Hard to kind of get your mind around, right? You feel like sometimes, for as easy as Jokic makes it for everybody else, they sometimes still kind of take and hit tough shots.
Yeah, oh yeah, that's
right.
They simultaneously get easier shots than you, and also make the tough ones that they have to take. That's what, like, watching the Suns, like the shot quality throughout that series just didn't compare. And then there are those backbreaking possessions where you did everything right and they still hit the shot.
Yeah, there was the corner three from Porter. There was the floater.
I feel like the only shot I saw him take was a step back three, and he hit almost all.
Yeah. How about the floater from? Do you know how many times I've watched KCP play and have him not hit a mid-range pull-up? Like, if he's not behind the arc, sometimes it just doesn't go in. And he splashed the one on the loose ball on the break, and I was like, that's a backbreaker.
And then, that little off the backboard, like, that's a tough shot.
Who's making – He doesn't make those, right? So it's like, I don't know. I think it's funny, though, just because I watch Jokic play, and Mark Jackson obviously has to call the broadcast. But he did own, being the guy that left him off his MVP ballot.
So his explanation was that he submitted his All-NBA ballot instead of his MVP ballot. Is that what he was implying?
It seemed like it. He didn't really land the plane, except for at the end when he said, hey, listen, if I make a mistake, I'm going to own it. And I was like, well, the statement is owning it. The manner in which it happened was kind of ambiguous.
Yeah.
But I didn't want to split hairs. I just know I chuckle, especially having the NBA League Pass, watching Jokic a fair amount because he's always blacked out here.
Yeah.
That's just what he does.
Yeah.
Right? I know it doesn't look like much. You wake up or you blink and all of a sudden he has 10 points and 8 rebounds. And it's like 29-27 and you don't realize it, right?
That was it, 12, 8, and 5 or something in the first quarter?
In the first quarter.
Yeah, 19 and 17 at halftime, 7 assists, I think, 2 blocks, like 7 to 10 from the field. Like it. And I think we as a collective basketball viewing, I guess, I mean, whether it's both fans and the people that are talking about the game, I mentioned this before we started, but I think we got lured into thinking that Denver was something it was not because they locked things up so early and looked so pedestrian over the last month plus of the season.
Yeah.
Now Jokic is still that dude, and the Nuggets are still the number 1 seed, and they're absolutely playing like it again, and they're going to be tough out.
Yes, they are. Do you see any upset potential with Boston and Miami, considering they're polar opposites, right? Grinders, play hard, maximize effort, try hard team in the Heat versus naturally talented, take some stretches off because we're uber talented Boston Celtics.
Yeah, I mean, the Spo versus Missoula thing would be the one thing that you could kind of cling to, and the fact that somehow Miami keeps doing this, that they're still here. But yeah, I think if Boston does lose this series, that would be a pretty big indictment on Missoula and those guys at this point, because there's Boston is
they're the fave of the 4 remaining teams.
They're a far more complete team than Miami is. They just got more ways to beat you.
You're the last guy I should ask, because you actually tweeted it early when you said the Monty Williams current roster construction, something has to change. My original question was going to be more surprised at the abruptness of firing Williams or firing Doc Rivers. Both happened pretty quick relative to what was going on. So can I walk you back through the level of surprise? I think you wanted something to change with Williams, but which one actually more surprised you in its swiftness?
Yeah, I think that the swiftness is just a matter of like almost out of respect for these guys. Like, all right, if it's going to happen, let's get it done now so you guys can go be in the mix for all these open jobs right now. Because obviously, a lot of openings across the league, and these franchises moving forward with their interview lists and all that type of thing. So, yeah, I wasn't terribly. I retweeted a Philly fan that kind of made the point, like,
And in typical Jacob Padilla, it's not snark, but like, yeah, this is kind of how it is.
Well, Doc's been a problem the last few years. This year probably was the least, like, the best job he's done. And they just ran into
completely agree.
And his stars didn't show up. But like, you're not getting rid of the stars. So if like, I think that they're just at this point, you just got to try something different.
Was the death knell James Harden's "It's okay"?
I think so. Like, after hearing that, like, especially if you want to try to retain Harden, because obviously that's not a given at this point with the player option and the Houston rumors and all that sort of thing. So I think that's kind of what they felt like. And again, like with the Phoenix thing, I didn't want this to have to happen. Like, wanted Monty to be able to get over the hump. And back when they hired him, I wasn't thrilled because what he had proven to that point in his career is he's a good coach, obviously a great man, good culture guy, but hadn't shown that he could like get a team over the hump in the playoffs that didn't necessarily have the answers. And I think he improved, like he learned some things, and he did a lot of good things in Phoenix, and obviously got them to the point where they were 2 wins away from a title. But even that one, like losing 4 straight, and then the way the last 2 series ended, just showed a coach that didn't have answers. Like, when things went wrong, didn't even try things. Like, that's the thing. Like, it's not so like the Suns were probably losing that series no matter what, as currently constructed and the way the guys were playing. But 2 timeouts in an entire half as you're getting run off the floor. The lack of
good point.
The lack of like planned adjustments and trying certain things, and it just didn't seem like he really ever had a solution for what adjustments were made against them. Even in the Clippers series, like they ended up winning that thing, but I think Ty Lue did a lot of good stuff in there, and the Suns won because they had Devin Booker and Kevin Durant. So it's unfortunate. I would have liked to have seen him be the one to get them over the top. I just don't have any confidence that he will. The problem is, I don't know that you can guarantee that you can get an upgrade. Like, even some of the biggest names on the market right now, like,
would you take Nurse? Is he your first pick?
So I don't love it. I think he's better than Doc or Bud, who were kind of the same guy in different styles, but same guy as Monty in terms of good coach, maybe not what you need to win a title. Although Bud did. I mean, both those guys have, but I mean, at this point in their careers, the way they've been coaching, Nurse, I worry about the long term. Like, he really it got really bad there at the end in Toronto with his relationship with players and the front office and everything. You worry about the long-term burnout effect, but you're also like, hey, we need to win a title now. And you've got Kevin Durant in his mid-30s, and like, we got to make a push now. So like, I wouldn't hate, like, I think it could work as a short term. Like, I think he's a better option than some of the other big names on the market. It just seems like the Phoenix people plugged in doesn't seem like he's going to be on the list. It really does seem like they're pushing all in, trying to get Ty Lue from the Clippers.
Who I felt like, and it's my guy, so I'm saying this with all due respect, did not have a great year on the bench.
He did not. And that's kind of...
Oh, you're in agreement?
Oh, okay, yeah. So okay. I follow some Clippers bloggers. Shout out to Cole Huff, Creighton alum that's out there writing for them, among others, 213 Hoops. But like, especially during the regular season, like the way he handled so much, and he had a lot personally going on, obviously, as he made clear. But it just wasn't a great season. He kind of got stuck into his the the comfort, like the players keeping the lineup the same, not necessarily experimenting as much as he could have during the year, but you saw it again in the playoffs where this is a guy that has adjustments, that is going to try different things. He just didn't have a great year, which kind of could point to, well, maybe the time with the Clippers, they've kind of gone as far as they can together. And maybe that's the opening for Phoenix to swoop in and try something different. But I don't know. I'm just going to kind of wait and hope for the best. Because again, it's not going to be easy to upgrade on Monty Williams, although I think it's necessary.
Let's get to high school.
Yeah, let's talk about what.
Wow, that was interesting because that was like a super quick 10 minutes of just NBA. But this whole positionless thing, I think, is a little bit of a transition as we kind of get into what was a light week, kind of to recap. And we've got a little bit of a one coming up here before too long. This weekend, I think some teams are in Des Moines. You guys are in.
We're done. This last weekend was the last one for the spring for us. So down in the NxtPro Open Session, Lincoln, that's where most of the teams, we had OSA, Nebraska Supreme, Lincoln Supreme, Nebraska Hoops Elite, Omaha Elite. We're all down there this weekend. Nebraska United. So that's what I spent my weekend watching.
Yeah. So and we'll recap that one in a second. But let me get into just real quick with this whole. We're talking about Jokic and guys. When you're looking at coaches now, and you coach, right? You're right there in the thick of it. In the summer scene with AAU basketball, a ton of high school coaches in season. Are you one of those guys that thinks, hey, positionless is cool, you got to operate under these kind of constraints, or are you just a big fan of the free-flowing game and you think you'll figure it out as it goes? Because what we're seeing with offers, like when you hear they were looking at like a Bynum to maybe handle the ball more, or some of these guys that have had offers that are these long, strong, like Amir Martin playing some point, and you're thinking, we haven't seen a lot of that before. Are you really playing to their strengths? Or Hunter Salas, who was used as a ball handler at Gonzaga sometimes because their backcourt struggles. Are you a figure it out on the fly, or are you more of a we kind of very better zero this in if you want to play to their strengths?
Yeah, I think especially at the youth level, I think it is important to let players explore that and see, okay, what are they capable of? You don't want to. You want to do that without building bad habits, and I think that's the key as far as the players that make it. I don't know how many 6'9" guys that list themselves as shooting guards and just want to handle the ball and shoot threes and all that type of stuff. I honestly think that's like Bengot Dak, the spring that he's having in the senior year that he had. I think that's the transition that he made. He committed more to doing, all right, I'm 6'9" with a 7'7" wingspan. Like, I want to be a guard, but I got to do the other stuff too, and that'll help me. And he stepped up his rebounding, his shot blocking, his finishing in a big way for Southeast this senior year, and it's carried over to the spring.
That's a really good example. So what would you do with a guy like Frager or Amir Martin or Chuck Love, where we've seen on the high school level, sometimes people take advantage of the fact they don't handle it a ton as ball handlers, but are probably seen going forward as guys that will handle the ball.
And that's more the skill development, and like that's what's going to be most important for them. Like, throw them out there and see, all right, what can I do now? What do I need to be able to do to get where I want to go? And
which on the other end has helped a guy like Cade Cook, right? Who was playing in the backcourt as a kid, handling kind of like Justin Patton, right? Kind of a guard, and then all of a sudden
way up.
You wake up one day and you've like grown 6 inches, where the ball handling is.
Well, and they had him listed as a center when he got to Gretna on their roster.
Oh, I know.
And now back in the spring, he's kind of continued to settle into his body, getting to handle the ball a little bit more for the MBDA team, and he's been kind of touring the the GPAC schools and picking up offers left and right from them. So
isn't that something?
Yeah. So it's, I think it comes down to good development, good coaching, and the player understanding what you need to do to be successful and to not fall in love with just doing the flashy stuff, to that just making the pull-up jumpers and all that type of stuff the brunt of your game, as opposed to a counter when you can't get the better looks.
Now, this may be contrary to your personality, but I'm appealing to your sense of objectivity because you love kids and you love basketball. If you're looking for programs, are you about exposure or development?
It's early on, it's got to be 100% development.
Okay.
17 UU summer, especially, like that's, I think, when you need to pay more attention to exposure and the opportunities and the schedule you're going to play, the level of competition, that type of stuff. Because let's be honest, unless you're a 4-star high level kid, or even someone like Frager that's dunking on people left and right, chances of picking up, like D1 coaches in particular, aren't going to be watching you at 15U, 16U level as much as they wait for the 17U level, again, outside of the really high level prospects that have already established themselves as targets. So I think the most important thing, 15U, 16U level, is developing your game, finding somewhere where they do give you a chance to work on your game in practice, and then kind of play your strengths and explore kind of what you're capable of in the games on the weekend. And again, that's like, with my teams, I've always, I don't necessarily run a million set plays, call something every single time. I want to put them into positions where they make decisions and can hopefully either succeed or learn from it if it doesn't go well, and try to like point out, all right, this didn't go well for this reason. This is what we need to be doing in this situation, and then throw them back out there and hope that they can make the better decision and learn from it.
That's
so
a good point.
that's I think it's all important. It's just, I think, a matter of time. Like, you got to be able to take advantage of the exposure you're getting. You got to get to that point first as a player where you're good enough to impress coaches that are watching you. And there are a lot of different ways to impress coaches. Go dunk on somebody, you communicate, make great help rotations, knock down the open shots. Like, there's a lot of different ways, a lot of different things that coaches are looking for. The more developed you are as a player, the easier it is to draw their attention.
Let's get into recaps, right? I mean, this is actually, to be honest, I mean, full disclosure, why I do like talking to you. I try not to monopolize your time with just NBA or just, X's and O's, or, pin downs and down screens and off ball action and stuff like that. I do like to talk about kids as well, because you have that kind of range. But every now and again, we get into these kinds of things because I think we like the same types of things.
Yeah.
At least that's the impression I get.
Yeah, it's fun, kind of, especially, I mean, like, we try to keep this thing going as close to year round as possible. So only so many topics you can hit in a certain amount of time. So it's fun to kind of spread it out. And
I think sometimes parents need to hear kind of like from multiple perspectives. Okay, what am I looking for in programs, and when should I be looking for them? Right.
Yep.
And because how often do you check the tournament schedule and say, okay, where are we going to be playing? Some programs sell it. Hey, we're going to be here, here, and here. You need to come be with us for exposure. Others are like, hey, we'll get your game right and be competitive, so this is advantageous to you too. So I think talking out loud about those different dynamics is pretty important.
And on the schedule thing, like, you got to consider like what exposure is important for you. Like, if you're an NAI kid, you probably want to be playing closer to here, Kansas City, Omaha or Lincoln,
Des Moines.
Yeah. As opposed to flying out to California or going to Chicago or something like that, where like, unless you're just really interested in getting out of this area and going as far away as possible, like, it's more important for, like, GPAC is some of the best NAI basketball in the country. So like,
that's not opinion.
No,
that's yeah. In rankings, that's a fact.
So you got a lot of good options in this area already. So it's probably better if you're an NAI level kid to be playing closer to home and in front of those coaches that are going to be in that area, as opposed to, we're going to Las Vegas, we're going to Houston, we're going to all these types of places. Like, So that's just another thing to continue or to consider. But this weekend we got to stay close to home, go down to Lincoln, and again, a handful of different programs down there. We had 3 or 4 different Nebraska teams went 4-0 this weekend that I saw
at the top.
Yep. Nebraska Supreme Pro 17s again. Pat Freeman's team continued their really good spring. They went 4-0. They beat Omaha Elite 60-55 to open the weekend. I didn't get to see that entire game. That was a big one. Omaha Elite full strength. They had Quentin McCafferty back, who has been out with an ankle injury, I believe. And so good to see him back out there for them. And I walked over there and basically.
How about the crowd, though?
Yeah, it was. I had a tough time being able to find somewhere I could see the court. But who is it?
Do you like? Are you an overhang guy, or do you like to be on the floor?
So I like being basically as close to courtside front row as possible. Like that's the seats that I always aim for, so I can see the whole court. I'm close enough to kind of see what's going on, everything. So like that's usually where I look first, and then kind of branch out from there to wherever it is possible to see. But
they just have a good set. I like the setup.
Yeah, they've got multiple options there. They got the bleachers, they got the overhang. Can go hang out on the bench as well for some of these programs. So, but Omaha Elite, they tied it up with a 3, 55 all, and went up in the press. Nebraska pushed it ahead, and Landon Pekorski on the wing in transition, like within the last minute or so, pulled up for the 3 answer and knocked it down. Yeah. And like, geez, that is
it's gutsy.
A tie game.
Gutsy. It's basically transition 3.
Yep. And no hesitation, let that thing fly and knocked it down. Omaha Elite came back, and Devin Holman, I think, tried to get up a 3 from the corner, and Antela Sanlinel closed out, blocked it. And
we're saying that name again this week.
Nebraska Supreme hit a couple of free throws to seal it. So that was a good way to start the weekend for them. They beat Missouri Flight by 7. I didn't get to see that at all. They beat Colorado Rough Riders by 11. I was there for that one. Alex Wilcoxon went off at 22 points, 6 of 11 from 3, 7 boards. And Landon Pekorski, again, 14 points, most of it from the free throw line, went 10 of 10 from the line.
So I felt like for him this weekend, scoring the basketball again, I think some people saw how he goes 1,000 points in 3 years, because early on this spring, he hasn't really had to, be a scorer like he is for his high school and kind of what he's been known for. He's played a little more off the ball some. He's had to share the ball handling duties with Eldon Turner and guys like that in the backcourt. So I think he kind of got back into the scoring mindset this weekend.
And they were down a couple of guys on Saturday, so more playing time, more shots.
That's a good point.
So they need him to step up, and he did. And then they closed out the weekend, the 14-point win over Rogue at Oklahoma. Carter Mick went off 17 points, 7 of 8 from the field, hit 3 threes. Bengot Dak, 14 points, 5 boards. Marcus Glock, 12 points, only missed 1 shot. So just kind of an efficient end of the weekend. They started slow a little bit in all 4 games, I think, but came back and won. So good weekend for them. They had a fantastic spring. Again, they get a little bit of break now, but mentioned Antela Sanlinel. Sounds like he's going to prep squad in Arizona. Obviously, Bengot Dak's going to Sunrise Christian. So good to see those guys kind of find
Lincoln. Yeah, those is a couple too. Level of appreciation, since we do it every other week, we might as well be consistent, because we talked about him last week in passing. Mixing the semifinals today, as a matter of fact, with Lincoln East, just playing hard and relentless this weekend in hoops, having a big offensive weekend, right? Like, just the affinity that I have for the duality of what's at stake and what he's willing to do. He's one of those guys that just lets it hang.
Oh yeah, it's just incredible. Like, I can't believe like what they've done this spring, of the travel down for a Friday game, come back for baseball on Saturday, and then travel back down to Wichita or Kansas City, like making those drives for just one game, just to be there with the team. And to kind of, it's obviously a different role. By the end of last summer with that OSA Gold team, he was the dude there, because obviously Alex Wilcoxon had moved up.
That's kind of how we started. Like, hey, Listen, just a sophomore, because this was last year. It's like he's playing really, really. Actually, both guys benefited from that move.
Yeah, 100%.
Carter Mick benefited, as did Alex Wilcoxon moving up with ETG.
So it's been a little bit different role for him this spring, but I mean, when you're trying to balance two sports at the same time, you might not be like the shots might not quite fall as consistently when you're out there pitching every other day, but he's had some big games for them, and that's kind of what they need. Like some games he'll take 1 or 2 shots. Other games he'll come up and score 17 off the bench for him. So he's a good piece for them to have, and buying into that role and the dedication he showed. I think coaches should take note of and consider when you're looking at him.
If we take late March, which I think the last weekend in March, April, and the first 2 weeks in May, would you say and Sandonello is the guy that made probably the most buzz for that basketball team in terms of attention? Or am I missing one?
He's been up and down. It's been different guys. I don't know that there's any one player. Okay. Alex Wilcox has probably been the most consistent player for that
scoring
team.
For sure. But and
defending too at the point of attack.
It just bugs me that people pigeonhole him.
Yeah,
and he's better than that.
Yeah, and then Bengat Dak is the other one, and then beyond that, it's kind of like when Antela has been really good, they've won. Like they have not lost really when he's been locked in and performing at a high level. Those BD and Antela as kind of the unsigned seniors to add into that group kind of push them over the top. So they've had a great spring. I was impressed with OSA Elite Travis, 17U this weekend. They went 4-0.
He's a good coach.
Yeah. And good group of kids that have played together.
Yep. Very familiar. They share it too.
Yeah. Multiple guys had a great weekend. Camden Money in their last game of the weekend finished with 21 points on 7 to 10 shooting, 4 or 5 from 3. He had 16 in the second half to basically single-handedly ice that game.
I love the way he plays. Yeah. We talked about him at the high school season. I said he was the X factor for Miller North, does all the dirty work, underappreciated. I've watched him ruin many lives of some teams that he was playing against that I was the father of. Like,
was it Westside that he hit it? That they you guys left him open and he hit a bunch of threes?
He's just. I'm just a big fan. Like, because he doesn't say much. He appears to be really well liked. Like I watch him. I'm weird, right? I watch kids interact with other kids, and I'm like, you know what? That's probably a guy I would ride with because he does those things that unless you're watching, you probably don't appreciate.
Yeah, he had 21 in that last game, scored 15, and I saw 3 of their 4 games. Audric Bermel from Elkhorn had a really good weekend, scored 14, 15, and then 12. Pretty efficient in the 3 games that I watched for them. Some timely steals. Colin Comstock, also from Elkhorn, had a really great first game that I saw, scored 19 points on 6 of 8 shooting, hit 3 threes. Carson Jones, solid, continues to be kind of a double-digit scorer for them from Creighton Prep. Nate Roberts from Elkhorn also had a really good game against SSA Hoops Black in their win there. 12 points, 3 steals, kind of everywhere so long on defense. So and then Jordan Gasson had a couple of good games as well. Had 10 points in one of the wins, had 12 points in the other. Didn't miss a shot in that 12-point game. So they've got a lot of different pieces that can hurt you. And they had a great weekend as well. And then Nebraska, Lincoln Supreme National 2, 17Us went 4-0, as did Nebraska United 15Us. And they've got a couple, and they've got some 8th graders playing up there.
Yeah.
I only watched 1 full game of them. The competition in their pool was rough. There were 2 teams that should not be playing at this level. They shouldn't be honestly traveling, let alone playing in the pool that they were. No, I'm not.
I believe you.
Lincoln Supreme National 1 15U beat this Colorado team 84-8. They did not score in the second half.
Ooh.
It just complete waste of time for everybody. And talking to United's coach, like they gave up 15 points, and he was mad at his team for giving up 15 against them.
Well, he let off the gas, man. They had 6 field goals in the game and 3 free throws. You're like, wait, what?
But Jaquise Fowler and Jordan Castor are 2 names that you're going to want to keep an eye out for the next 4 years. Incoming freshmen there. And Will Schaefer, also North Star, had a good game. I watched them. Supreme National 1 push them harder than anybody else, but United ended up pulling away and winning that one. So Fowler had 14, hit 4 threes in that one. Castor had 11 points, 5 steals, 4 boards, and Schaefer just did a bit of everything. 12 points, 8 rebounds, 4 assists, 4 blocks, 2 steals. So those are the teams that went 4-0, went undefeated this weekend. Some 3-1 teams. OSA Klein, 17U. They struggled a little bit early on in the spring, trying to figure things out. They had a really good weekend outside of one letdown against Omaha Elite Blue, 17U. Omaha Elite second team.
Coach Klein stays in the gym, man. Yeah. His scouting report, he's everywhere.
Yeah. Outside of them, they destroyed everybody else they played. And Stephen Polachek's on that team. Cole Peterson from Elkhorn had a great weekend. Rylan Rodriguez from Omaha Bryan, he was on that OSA Gold team last year.
He's coming.
The progress he's made, he's a completely different player from what I saw even during the high school season.
Coach Gully is extremely excited about him.
Yeah, I mentioned Omaha Elite. They went 3-1. That Supreme loss was their only one. Daleron Thomas had 20 points, went 4-6 from 3 in a win over Colorado Rough Riders National, and then they ended the weekend with a Devin Holman game winner in their last game against Missouri Flight. Won 52-51. Caught on the perimeter, drove, kind of put up a little runner at the basket at the buzzer. I didn't see the shot until I saw the video. I heard the reaction over on another court.
You're like, hey, I think that was a buzzer beater.
And then kind of last shout out to Nebraska Hoops Elite. For some reason, all their teams played 6 games. Yeah. So Greg Hepburn and
likability factor, right? Yeah. Hey, G-Help, we got you. But we're going to get some games in.
Yeah, the 17's top team went 3-3. Ricky Lofton and Tay Moore have played really well for the weekend. They picked up Tay playing for him. Their 16U top team, Ami Williams and Chris Brown from Bellevue East. Yep. And then Jordan Anderson from Lincoln North Star led them to 5-1 this weekend. Their second 16U team, Deion Darnell and Brandon Jarman from Bryan, both played well. They went 5-1 as well. And then the 15s went 4-2. Ramon Ware from Omaha North and Dwayne Carney from Northwest kind of went the way. They played 4 games on Saturday and won all 4. So it was pretty good showing for them having to play the extra games there.
That's something you do at nationals. Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe.
I saw this. I asked him, how do you end up playing? He said, I'm still trying. Greg said, I'm still trying to figure that out. So it didn't seem like something they requested. I don't know how that worked out, but and then the ETG 15s, they were the only ETG playing. They went 2-2 playing up in the 16U division. I saw them play against All Iowa Attack Elite Red. It was a 1-point game at halftime. They just kind of
got away from them.
Couldn't hang in there, but I think it was obviously it's a team that's been struggling a little bit. There were some positive things to take away this weekend, beating 2 16U teams, and they were competitive with that elite team where the 15s they weren't really competitive with them either the times they played them. So hopefully that kind of gives them some confidence here as they head into the spring.
Yep. That's pretty complete. That's as good as it gets. We'll be back next week with another episode of Nebraska Preps Postgame. As I like to say, don't you dare miss us.
A Hurrdat Sports Network production.